Hello and welcome to the album man. Today it's Christmas Eve. It's going to be the last video with my nice little tree here, so we can say goodbye. And I thought it's time to finish up my 2-year anniversary Q&A. So this will be the final part. So if your question hasn't been answered here, then I probably haven't seen it somehow. I don't know why the hell you put it. So we're going to start off with Pat Orr. And he asks, bands and albums you disliked for the longest time but now you love. This is a very interesting question because there's an absolute ton. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but some bands particularly that I didn't like, Radiohead, Opeth, Marillion. I really didn't like Marillion for the longest time. I absolutely hated Fisher's voice, which is quite odd. Metallica. When I first heard Metallica, I know a lot of, most of the other people in the metal community, and it's like, oh, as soon as I heard Metallica, just fell in love, just awesome. When I heard Metallica, it's like, this is not very good. This is like nowhere near as good as Iron Maiden. This is pretty shit, really. And I hated Metallica for years and years, honestly. Bob Dylan, had no interest in Bob Dylan, which surprising now, considering how much I have. I think I have about 15 albums of his now. Hendrix, I thought he was so overrated. Bowie, I really hated Bowie. Albums, when I first heard Pink Floyd's The Wall, my second favourite album of all time, I hated it. I particularly hated Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. I thought it was one of the worst songs I'd ever heard in my life. So yeah, and also an album I didn't like at first, Led Zeppelin 2. Didn't think that was really very good, but now it's my favourite Zeppelin album. So there's a ton, absolutely. Until it was Led Zeppelin one, I didn't like Led Zeppelin for a long time. What do you consider the weakest Rush album? I wouldn't say Rush have that many weak albums, really. I know some people don't like the 80s period as much, like, Grace Under Pressure and Power Windows type stuff. I've always quite liked that, actually. I'd say the weakest, even though it's an EP, has to be the Feedback Covers EP. I've never really enjoyed that particular release. And I'm not a big fan of Vapor Trails. There's a full Rush album. I don't think that's very good. I never liked the production on it, but they have remixed it, so maybe I should give that a listen. But I didn't think Vapor Trails was ever that strong. The songwriting as well. Yeah, I'd say off the top of my head, there aren't that many. I'm not a huge fan of the first album. It's alright, but I prefer Caress of Steel, and later on. Okay, so next from him is, if there was a band or bands you could have seen in their early days back in time, who would it be? Well, Guns N' Roses, of course. I'd love to have seen it any time they were, especially in the early days when they were living on the streets of LA, or not quite, but close to it. That would have been awesome to see. Bob Dylan in the early days. Oh my god, I don't know what you could define as the early days for Dylan. If you're talking like sort of the very early 60s, late 50s, when he was playing very, very small clubs, or if you could define, just to see him playing the folk circuit, that would have been so cool. Even if it was mainly playing Woody Guthrie covers, that'd just be so cool to see him in the early days. And if you count the early days going to the 60s, and particularly one of the concerts I'd love to have seen the most, and especially one that was quite near to me, a long time in the past, was the 1965 Manchester Free Trade Hall concert, the famous Judas one. That would have been pretty cool. Dio, I would just love to have seen any stage. To see him with the Elves, that would be pretty awesome, actually. Like on the Carolina County Ball album tour, and that'd be sweet. Going more, because the Doors in the early days, that'd be pretty awesome on the debut album. Hendrix in that bar in New York when he was discovered, particularly. That must have been a pretty good show, because we all know what happened to Hendrix after that. It would have been pretty cool to see the Beatles in the early days in the Cavern Club, not too far away from me, but again, just a bit in the past. And things like Pink Floyd of Barrett, that would have been very, very cool. But there's a lot of classic early tours that I never had the opportunity to see. Okay, next we have Classic Rock 20175. Number 1, opinions on Slipknot. Well, the thing about Slipknot, I said before, but I do have an allergy to Corey Taylor, so it sort of prevents me from listening to any Slipknot or Stone Sour or anything like that. Really, it's just I could die if I hear some. So I don't want to take that risk. So as a precaution, I just try and avoid them at all times, because probably one of the worst bands I've ever had in my life, honestly. No, I absolutely hate Slipknot. Just can't stand them. I barely had a metal band worse up there with Limp Bizkit and Stone Temple Pilots, as far as I'm concerned, as bands I bloody hate. 2. Have you listened to the album Symbolic by Death? I'm not a big death metal fan, but that's one of my favourite albums of all time. Yeah, I've listened to about half of it. Is it Chuck Schuldiner? I think. I can respect the guy, certainly, for what he did. He certainly pioneered metal, but it's not something I really listen to. I've given it a go, just not really my cup of tea. Favourite YouTube reviewer, honestly, well, I talked about them in a previous part, my favourites, so, refer to that, I suppose. Do you headbang? Like when I'm at concerts, like, slightly, like, not one of these people who's like, yeah, like that, and gets like mosh pits and stuff, that type of thing. It really appealed to me, but, I sort of gently, nod my head like that. Opinions on metalcore. I'm not a big fan of anything ending with core. If something ends in core, it's just something shivers down my spine. Hardcore, metalcore, grindcore, core is just, I'm not a fan of the core genres. But metalcore, like the odd thing, basically by odd thing I mean Trivium. The Trivium are okay. I don't really listen to them very much, but I quite enjoyed Vengeance Falls. May even appear on my potential top 50 albums of the year list. Wondering whether to do 50 or 25 at the moment. So yeah, and how old am I? Well, I'm actually 63. No, I'm 17 really. And yeah, okay. So Thomas to Rockaholic 11 would have been. Oh no, I haven't said before. What the hell am I on about? Yeah. This is the problem when you have some pre-prepared answers. You get a bit confused. When I was saying about favourite YouTube video, what I meant is I'm going to answer it in this question. I just got confused so badly about orders. Oh well, I'm going to answer it anyway. So the first, Thomas Rock on 11, anyway, check them out anyway. Who are some of your favourite YouTubers, music community, or otherwise? You should have answered the question before, but YOLO. I hate that bloody word. Okay, so, Cover Killer Nation, of course. Well, you, Thomas the Rockaholic. Midnight Strike 365, Chainsaw, EKP Fulton's Reviews, Strong Boys 19, Town Lock, Metal Couch, even though it doesn't really review much anymore. Those people, they're some of my favourites, but there's quite a lot that I watch. I'm Metal222 as well, I like his reviews. Off the top of my head, I suppose. Yeah. Number 2, are you thinking of getting a next generation console? And if you are, PS4 or Xbox One, which one are you getting? Well, maybe in a couple of years when the prices have gone down or when they've released a more stable build, and most likely PS4. But it's all about what the exclusives. I have no idea. At E3 next year, Xbox could just announce the most amazing exclusives, and I'd be sold. But then again, PS4 could announce a Little Big Planet 3, and then I'd pretty much be sold. And that Order 1888 game, I'm leaning towards the PS4 so far. It seems the most consumer friendly, the most indie friendly, and seems to potentially have some of the best exclusives. So, but in a couple of years, price, more stable build probably. What are your top 5 favourite films of all time? Well, as I have a joint number 1, we'll have to start at number 4. We'll start at number 5, I mean there's no number 2, per se. Okay, so number 5, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. What the hell more is there to say? Number 4, Darren Aronofsky's masterpiece, Black Swan, even though it's a film about ballet, which doesn't usually appeal to me. Not very metal. But, one of the best, in fact, the best psychological thriller, and I'm a huge fan of particularly psychological thrillers. The best one ever made. Natalie Portman, fantastic in it. Mila Kunis, just such stunning performances, and directing is just, oh my god, out this world. Number 3, Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. I mean, what more to say? De Niro, Joe Pesci, who's my favourite actor of all time. Yeah, I know. Even though he's a bit of a one-note actor, I just love the character. He always plays in things like Casino and this, and etc., Raging Bull as well. And then also Ray Liotta, of course, as Henry Hill, fantastic mob film. And number 1, the joint, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy plus The Hobbit. I count them all as one. I just love the Lord of the Rings world and lore so much. And joint with that is Borat, really. It's in my whole top 25 odd film list. It's the only comedy I have in there, so there you go. You know, so I'm not a huge comedy fan, but I think Sacha Baron Cohen is just so funny. And this film, oh my god, especially as most of it was, you know, real people. And you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the film, otherwise you'll be confused. EQP TV, as I said, check him out. What albums do you treasure the most? Damn, that's a good question. Sorry, just seeing if I had them near me, because I thought I did. Put them aside. Well, I have one of them. Don't know where the hell the other one's gone. Oh well. Right for that? Okay. Anyway, so albums I treasure the most. Well, if I don't bloody destroy it, oh my god, this is not going well. This video, I'm just getting too confused. Right, deep breath. Okay. So, albums I treasure the most. Well, one of them I can't find it, but Driving Towards the Daylight by Joe Bonamassa. I mean, I always say not always, but I've said for a while, Joe Bonamassa is my favourite guitarist of all time. I've never heard anyone play guitar as good as him in the history of music that I've listened to so far. And so my signed copy of Driving Towards the Daylight is pretty damn cool, honestly. But one of my favourite things, just because it's a really nice sort of like personal thing, is my signed copy of the Reticence album. I go on about this band all the time, but no one ever listens to them. The Tom Dietrich too. I love this album, one of my favourite progressive metal releases, and it's signed to me, and the person behind the project, Chris Hathcock, even thanks me for my review that I did for it, and in fact, I'm even quoted on his website as like good things about the album, so that's pretty damn cool. What is your favourite Pink Floyd album? The Wall, and the live version of The Wall particularly. I don't think Pink Floyd ever... Well, no, they did get close. I mean, Dark Side of the Moon's also in my top 10 albums of all time, and Wish You Were Here's not too far behind, top 20. I love Animals, though. I need to hear Animals on my hi-fi. Honestly, I'm waiting until I buy it. It's a weird thing, but I just need to hear it properly first, and, you know, a lot of great albums, but The Wall has to be. What do you think of Neurosis and ISIS? Neurosis, I'm not as familiar with. I know Through Silver and Blood a bit. I've been listening to them a bit, and I've enjoyed so far, but they're bands I really need to, you know, give like proper listen to, honestly. But ISIS, I've been digging so much. I particularly been listening to Panopticon. I absolutely love that album so much. It's just intense. It really is. The balance between the light and the shade, the crushing heavy bits, and the just beautiful, serene melody is an amazing album. Okay, considering you don't like death metal, do you think you will ever get into it? If you want to try a song, I highly recommend Carcass's Heartwork, which should be right up your street if you're willing to give it a go. When it comes to death metal, I don't think I'll ever quite get into like straight up death metal. You know, I'm talking bands like, you know, the Cannibal Corpse type of just straight all out death metal, or, you know, things like Death and things like that. But I certainly like death metal when it's combined with more progressive elements, as I said, like Opeth. And Carcass, I don't know. I mean, there's potential I could get into Carcass. So given Surgical Steel a listen, you know, good old Liverpudlian band, always a bit more willing to give band from Liverpool a go. Especially as they appeared in Red Dwarf. Guitarist and drummer were members of, in Red Dwarf, Craig Charles's, Lister's mythical band, Smeg and the Heads. That's pretty damn cool. But, I just don't feel like, I don't know, I'm ready for something like that extreme yet, honestly. Surgical Steel, it's like, this album is kind of interesting, it's just not up my alley quite yet. I definitely want to give Heartwork a go. I've heard a lot of good things about that, but I'm not quite sure I'm ready for, you know, that sort of heaviness and brutality. I need to work my way up, which I have been over 2013, but still a bit more to go. Unless your thoughts on the Diligent Escape Plan, it's really just not my type of thing, I'm afraid. I know it's very highly acclaimed, and I did listen to about half of it, I'd say, maybe, about half. And I can understand why people enjoyed it, because for that type of music, it's very good at what it does. It's just not the type of thing I particularly enjoy. Okay, Truman Kelly in the last batch of questions. Number 1, do you like Deep Purple? If so, what's your favourite album by them? Mine is Made in Japan and in Rock. My favourite would have to be, well, it's just up here. Ban, which, a bit sacrilegious to say, I know, not a Gillan album, but yes, Ben, I'm a huge fan of David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, so combine them with Richie Blackmore and, you know, John Lord. I think John Lord's on that album, and Ian Pace. Oh god, what an album that is. It's so catchy, yeah, so sort of Deep Purple's proggy type things, like with Mistreated. Oh my god, and there's only 2 minutes remaining on my camera, so I better be quick. Also Machine Head, that's my second favourite, and then Made in Japan's my third. Have you heard Mob Rules by Sabbath? Hell yeah, in fact, it's particularly, I looked it up, it's my 41st, well, the 41st, even 41th, what the hell am I on? 41st favourite album of all time, so yes, I love Mob Rules. I'm a huge DF fan. Guitar players to look up to: Slash, Joe Bonamassa, Jimi Hendrix, Billy Gibbons, Dave Gilmour, B.B. King, Jimmy Page, Richie Blackmore, Noel Gallagher, weirdly I've always liked him, Mike Oldfield as well, Brian May, my cover Queen Greatest Hits up there, and Tony Iommi. The list could go, John Petrucci, list could go on. And best Led Zeppelin album, Led Zeppelin 2. Hands down, the best album. I love a lot. I mean, Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven's like my first, second, third favourite song of all time. But and I love Black Dog. But for me, Led Zeppelin is just the most. Led 2 is just the most consistent album. Okay, so that concludes my Q&A. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, and subscribe. So I heard sort so quickly, but my camera's really about to run out in a second. So long live rock and roll, and have a merry, merry Christmas.